In the northern Iraq city of Tal Afar, people say things are looking up. A diverse population, home to Sunni, Shia, Kurd and Turkmen, it was described by George W. Bush in March 2006 as, and it's a direct quote, an outline of the Iraq we have been fighting for. This shortly before the city was torn apart in sectarian violence, made worse, many claimed, by what US forces called anti-insurgency operations.
It's all much better than before because they were the source of all sedition.
US force is now seldom evident, and even though the city remains deeply divided on sectarian and ethnic lines, the American withdrawal is regarded with delight rather than fear.
We were happy to see the American forces pull out. We were never really dependent on them because they were outsiders, and we believe the Iraqi forces, army and police can now contain the security situation.
One sentiment apparently common to all regardless of tribe or religion, anger at the country's political leaders and the delay in forming a government.
The people of Tal Afar were targeted. More than 2,000 people were sacrificed, martyred, wounded or displaced. We had hoped the central government would look after us and honor our sacrifices by providing proper services to the city's people.
And there's not a view unique to Iraq's distant north. Similar anger expressed in Baghdad, some 300 kilometers to the south.
We wanted democracy, and we went out with our families to vote despite the danger. But after we had voted, there was no gratitude or respect from the leaders for the people that voted. They should have formed the government a month after the elections.
There is in the Sarhan household an absence of the most basic services. No pumped water, so it has to be bought in expensive containers. Electricity provided only 4 out of every 24 hours on average. The air conditioner, a useless adornment through most of the searing summer days.
We all talk nowadays about the lack of any good officials to take the lead, whether from the state of law, the INA, Iraqia, or the Kurdistan Alliance. Just someone to sort out things in the right way.
There's not fears about security that's being discussed as the US presence diminishes and the troops fade away. It's about far more basic things like water and the heat, and no electricity for the television, so they can watch as the US forces mark one deadline in the process of going away.
Good day, everyone. Today is August 31st, 2010. Welcome to Global Government News. I am Darko. You just saw it right there from Al Jazeera reporting. You're not going to get that type of reporting in the West here, or where they're showing basically. Those were basic needs that were met before the U.S. went over there and quote to fight the insurgents. They had running water, they had electricity, and now they're buying bottled water. Like I said, real expensive, just like in Afghanistan where most of this stuff is being shipped in from the West so they can, military industrial complex, make a lot of money out of war and people dying and suffering and create a need to be there so they can keep doing it. But the same thing in Afghanistan, they were shipping it in from the West when they could have just done it. They could have just brought in materials locally and really helped the economy, but it's not about helping the economy. Because if they really wanted to help the people, they would create an economy. And it's about importing and exporting globalization and destroying whatever was Iraq. Because there was, to a certain extent, albeit, Saddam Hussein wasn't the greatest human being on the earth. He was much more of a puppet for the West. But they had basic amenities, and being that there was 3 different, or more than 3 different, different sects there, they were able to kind of just coexist. So I just wanted to put that out there. This is Obama, says Iraq war is ending, his promise is kept, and this is from August 28th. I think we all saw this ridiculous headline that said President Barack Obama said on Saturday, Iraq could chart its own course. He said and told the Americans the drawdown of the U.S. troops helped fulfill a promise he made during the 2008 presidential campaign. So they put this out, and then They're going to fix the facts because they know this is going to get people really riled up, right? And their blood boiling because they know it's just pure propaganda. And then you move to this. America calls end to frontline operations in Iraq. America called an end to the frontline operations in Iraq on Tuesday night amid telling warnings about its failure to end the threat of Al-Qaeda, or install a stable government. Remember what those people were saying. Why didn't they just install a damn government after they elected, after the people scared out of their wits actually went out and voted, and then they didn't do anything? Because like I said, they have puppets and they're in charge, just like in Pakistan. All right, I just have so much news today. I might actually have to put this into 2 videos, 30 minutes, because there's just so much news out there that I've just went around the internet from all the different sources throughout the world and gathered here for the War on Terror, Liberty, Sovereignty news segment. And so here we go. New U.S. operation begins in Iraq. It says the U.S. mission in Iraq is set to undergo a major rebranding Wednesday, kind of like a marketing strategy, right? Like a corporation, when Vice President Joe Biden presides over the change of command ceremony in Baghdad, making the end of Operation Iraqi Freedom, the campaign that began in March of 2003, and the beginning of a military assistance mission called Operation New Dawn. Wow. So they're beginning one called New Dawn. That sounds fairly Masonic. It says, but while the formal combat phase may end, U.S. troops aren't all going away. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Of course, a substantial U.S. contingent will remain in Iraq to advise and train Iraqi forces, and civilian-led reconstruction effort will also continue, where Western interests will be put at the forefront. That new mission is set to expire in December of 2011, right? Said at present, just under 50,000 U.S. troops are in Iraq, down from a peak of 166,000 at the height of the 2007 troop surge. The military anticipates the force level will remain steady throughout the end of the summer. We have this article was about 2 days ago. AP Impact, U.S. wasted billions in rebuilding Iraq. Hundreds of projects left abandoned, incomplete at U.S. hands-off to Iraqis. It says a $40 million prison sits in the desert north of Baghdad, empty. A $165 million children's hospital goes unused in the south. A $100 million wastewater treatment system in Fallujah has cost 3 times more than projected, yet sewage still runs through the streets without electricity and water, right? And it says, as the U.S. draws down in Iraq, it is leaving behind hundreds of abandoned or incomplete projects. More than $5 billion American taxpayer funds have been wasted. More than 10% of the sum, $50 billion, the U.S. has spent on reconstruction in Iraq. Reconstruction. So it's called demolishing everything about the culture, I think. But either way, like I said, military-industrial complex. It's American taxpayer dollars stolen from them, right? And then it goes to these global corporations. And you talk about fraud and waste. It's not waste. Dude, they have semi-trucks driving with no loads on them, getting fired at by people that if they don't pay them, they'll fire at them, right? The U.S. pays the Taliban and that in Afghanistan to fire at them. So it's like you drive these trucks with no loads on there. Why? Because it's a run. It's a run. Taxpayers have to pay this company, this contractor company, to drive and get shot at for nothing. Just like the amount of laundry mats. They wash all the clothes and it ends up being worse than doing them yourself by hand. And it costs $100 per load for taxpayers, for the soldiers. That's not waste, guys. That's fraud. Obama ends Iraq combat effort. Time to turn page. President Barack Obama on Tuesday declared an end to the U.S. combat role in Iraq after more than 7 years of war, killing, and pillaging, saying the country's future now is up to its own people, right? It's like someone going into a house and then, raping the wife and beating the kids and taking all their food and their money and saying, well, hey, we helped you. Now it's up to you. Now that you're dysfunctional and... It's not funny, but I'm reading this and it's just too obvious, guys. Just Iraq independent as the U.S. combat operation ends. Iraq's prime minister has said the country is independent as the U.S. formally ends combat missions. Nouri Maliki, another puppet, of course, said the country's security forces would now deal with all threats, domestic or otherwise. This is from the Asian Times Online. Obama draws a line on Iran policy. The U.S. President, his refusal in a White House briefing this month to announce a red line in regards to Iran's nuclear program represented another in a series of rebuffs of pressure from Defense Secretary Gates for a statement that the U.S. will not accept its existing stocks of low enriched uranium. Iran says continued presence of U.S. troops in Iraq unacceptable, says spokesman. This is from the London Telegraph. Afghanistan bomb attacks killed 21 U.S. soldiers in 48 hours. 21 American troops have been killed in Afghanistan since Friday in one of the bloodiest periods of the summer. A series of bomb attacks have badly hit U.S. troops in eastern and southern Afghanistan in the past 48 hours. So far, the death toll is 484 this year, predicted to far surpass 2009's total of 521. And a lot of those are people that were left Iraq and went home. No, they got redeployed to Afghanistan. This is military subcontractors bribing U.S. personnel with prostitutes. The shady world of war contracting in Afghanistan and Iraq. Taxpayer cash is flowing to the subcontractors in Iraq and Afghanistan who engage in shady illegal practices with fewer repercussions. No, there'll usually be someone that will be hung out to dry, but stuff is definitely going on, and it's not really, no one's really accountable for anything out there. It says Army U.S. soldiers plotted to kill Afghan civilians. Witnesses heard Staff Sergeant Calvin Gibbs talk about how easy it would be to toss a grenade at innocent people. 5 soldiers accused of killing civilians in Afghanistan are now facing additional charges of conspiracy to commit premeditated murder, a plot that allegedly began when one soldier discussed how easy it would be to, quote, toss a grenade at Afghan civilians, the Seattle Report says. Next one. This is, despite aid, Pakistanis are suspicious of the U.S. Well, I wonder why. Because they're bombing them on a daily basis with drones. No, they're not just hitting, quote, militants, they're hitting civilians too. And now all of a sudden they have all these helicopters and they have Marines there. And so, no, I would be a little weary of it too, especially since they have a puppet government that isn't helping them during the floods. They're just playing politics with these poor people's lives. But don't look to the government. You gotta look to each other, man. That's it. Just look to each other, help each other, and don't expect crap from the government. This is a crazy story from the Register. Underweight passport pick left traveler stuck in Amsterdam. Putting on weight can be bad for your health. It can also cause you difficulties when trying to enter the United Kingdom. This is an unfortunate experience for Mr. Agyeman, whose weight gain led to an enforced stay in the Netherlands and litigation that is still making a ponderous way through the UK courts. The man was arrested and detained by authorities in Amsterdam on the basis he did not look or resemble the person on his passport. Said he put on some 31 kilograms in weight, and his fuller lips and ears did not match his passport. So he languished for another 3 months in Amsterdam before he was finally able to return home to the UK, and he said, "I cry when I think about what happened to me." So I guess he's suing. And this is Dutch hold 2 men on terrorism suspicion. This is from Reuters. It says Dutch authorities have detained 2 Yemeni men. I like that, Yemeni. I'm always suspect when I hear anything about Yemenis, man. At Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport on suspicion of terrorist conspiracy, though a U.S. official on Tuesday cast doubt that they were part of a terrorism plot. Well, at least they'll get good training, right? Maybe they can hold them for 5 months or something. It says South Korea, U.S. to hold joint naval drill. They've been doing this for like a month, but they're going to keep going with it and see what happens because it's all in our interest, right, guys? In the U.S. and the West, it's in our interest to be over there. So the anti-submarine drill will take place off the west coast of the Korean Peninsula from September 5th to September 9th. So not only did Obama authorize the use of renditions, which is taking and abducting citizens, White House sued for targeted killings. It says United States government faces legal action for ordering the assassination of American citizens whom it accuses of terrorist links. And just remember, guys, any one of us who speak out against the government is a possible terrorist. Britain, terrorists use conspiracy theories and attempt to discredit government and recruit new members. Obviously, too many people are figuring out the scam. The bloggers are with the Al-Qaeda. Seems hilarious and dumb now, but this is a setup phase after a false flag nuke or whatever it is. Guess where the finger will point? U.S.-Japan missed deadline on the Airbase Row. This is in Okinawa. This is where I was stationed as a parachute rigger. And while I was there, it was a nice little kill bot. They were protesting right outside the base. there in Iwo County. They didn't like us there, but I didn't understand it at the time.